Hey guys, welcome to week one, where we're covering chapter one and chapter two of Stronger Than the Struggle. If you guys are not part of our book club, this is what we're reading. So you can, look, Kayla's got her coffee too. We're going to be covering some of the questions. And if you are interested in all of the questions in the chapter, you can visit the blog, which will be linked in this video below. So you can go and check that out for yourself. Kayla, what question did you want to start with?
So, this one comes from chapter 1, Spiritual Warfare in Real Life. And I wanted to know, in what ways can you relate to Havilah's struggle during her childhood?
Ooh, Chastity, you want to go?
That's a kind of a hard one. Let's see. You know what I guess what I'm thinking about this is I know with her brothers and everybody felt smarter than her. She felt like they were all, I don't know, that she didn't have a purpose. And, as they stated in there, I think it was at the very end of chapter 1 in there, where she talked about how everybody was saying they're going to go to, her brothers are going to college, or actually, no, her sister was going to college, and her were going to preach, they're going to go around. And she said, well, and I'll probably, as a joke, she used to tell people, well, I'll probably just live with my parents forever. But inside, she never felt that that was a joke. She, in reality, thought that that's where she was going to be. And I think all of us have that struggle of finding yourself, not knowing your own purpose, not knowing where you're supposed to be in life, and feeling like a failure. And, and I guess what I want to point out is, just because she perceives her brothers and her sisters or sister as having that path, or her friend, I don't know if it was her sister, I can't remember exactly, but as having that path of, they know exactly what they want to do, but maybe they don't. Don't read a book by its cover. Just because they, just like you post on Facebook, oh, my life is wonderful and everything is great. People like to post just the good moments, but never the bad.
Right.
So just because they, they might seem to have everything together, they might not. And so in her aspect, I guess I look at it as it kind of saddened me that she felt that way, because her purpose just wasn't brought forth to her quite yet.
Right.
That's a very good point, and this is not really the question necessarily, but you brought up a very good point, Chastity, about how everybody perceives, like, there's certain people, we follow, what we call, like, famous people, or people who have high influence, however you want to call them, whether they've got 1 million followers or 2 followers. Sometimes we value people differently because they're well known and they have something to say, or they've shown that they've been able to grow and make an impact. And I have changed who I've been following probably over the last 6 months drastically. And it's not necessarily just people who have like a high influence, but finding people who I can relate to and be like, wow, they're making an impact. And Kayla and I were actually talking about part of this earlier, where what we wanted, the content that we want to put out for our Two Brave Sisters Instagram and our Facebook and our blog, we want to be truly authentic and genuine, whether that be right here, right now, like literally in her pajamas with no makeup. What we want to put out, we want, right, exactly. And we want to do that. We want to show people our true lives, like, not to be bragging about like, hey, look at me, I'm perfect all the time. Like, none of us are. And, when you get to a certain status, like, you want to show up and look beautiful or look pretty for certain occasions. And that's great. Like, amen, but like, when I feel my most comfortable, I'm hanging around in a pair of jeans and a t-shirt, like out in the garden, like getting dirty with my kids. Like, I want to project that as like, hey, this is okay. Like, we don't have to be perfect and show up every day, because we're all hot messes all the time. And although we post things that are inspirational, because when you surround yourself with those type of people, that's what you're going to feel. You're projecting it and you give off those vibes. And so if somebody's having a rough day, or maybe I'm having a rough day, I'm like, all right, no, like, I'm going to put these positive vibes out so that I feel them and other people around me. And I think that's so, so important. But we were just talking about that today, so I thought that was pretty interesting.
Yeah, for sure. It was kind of like a spur of the, like, not out of nowhere, I think, conversation that we just had that happens to relate to this book and, the struggles or the journey that we're about to go on with this book. Um, at the end, so one thing I really love about this book, and I hope that you guys can agree, is the empowerment points, like at the end of each chapter. So the first one is chapter on page 21. And there was like on the first chapter, there was several empowerment points that I found, like, I don't know, they just kind of really hit hard for me. And the one being, the fight happens simply because we live in a fallen world, and we look at how broken the world is right now, and how much like warfare there is going on, and not just like with politics or religion or whatever, but within ourselves, right? Like, we're always quick to put other people down, but we aren't quick to lift each other up, which I feel like we should be doing more of.
Absolutely.
So when I seen that point, I was like, I immediately didn't think of anything else but but about other people, and like what we can put into other people, and like what is our purpose. Like, are we speaking positivity or are we speaking negativity to these people?
No,
Like,
that's
we're
a really good point.
like, we're not all going to get along, we're not all going to like what each other does, but there's something positive that can be found in every person.
Yeah. I think the thing that they touch this base in the very beginning, it's on page 10. I have it like highlighted like crazy and a big thing.
Yeah.
I've heard this a million times probably, listening to self-development books and podcasts and everything, but learning to take, like how we always take a statement that we hear and put it into a question, and instead of like taking a question like, okay, am I good enough? Like, am I worthy? Like, instead of asking a question, make it a statement like, I am worthy, I am capable, I am loved, like, I am enough. Like, taking those questions that we rack on our brain or we obsess over all the time because we have all that stuff, all that negative self-talk all the time.
Right.
I've been learning to focus on taking that question and turning it into a statement of I am, instead of, and I don't know where it was I heard this past week, like, I am is the two most powerful words in the English language. And I was just like, oh, wow. Like, I never thought about it. Like, I have goosebumps telling you that, because if you really take any statement and you start with I am, like, it changes your perspective
It
completely.
gives power.
It's huge. And like that statement, like you said at the very end, where it's touching on the empowerment, that's on there, and it really hit me hard. Turning those, taking those statements into questions, but like, people are always constantly questioning our integrity and our intentions and like what we're putting out, and not especially us, but just anything. Like, when you have conversations and you interact with people, like, a lot of times the struggle is internally and it's not necessarily outward, and so like we take our struggles inward and like we project them on everything that we have, because again, we all are trying to figure out, focus on like, what is our purpose, like, why are we here? And I think the more that you dig deeper into this book and dig deeper into like spending time by yourself and like not listening to music, or I mean, music is amazing. Like, it's, for me,
Yeah.
it's a lifesaver, and listening to books and podcasts, but learning to take, whether it's 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 30 minutes, whatever, to spend by myself and just journaling, like whatever comes out, like nobody ever has to read it. Like, it's just there. But like, I have been able to pull things out that I just like, I'm like, what? Where'd that come from? So it's just been, I don't know, for me, that part's been really, really important.
So chapter 2 was called, or is called, Two Camps. And one of the questions, which I found very interesting because I loved how Javila went into depth about it, but there's two of the questions that really stuck out to me. The first one talks about when our minds pick up any signs of potential danger, they instantly react to defend us by launching a fight, flight, or freeze response. Have you seen these spiritual circuits play out in your life? So she actually went into
great
the
depth.
about the defense modes.
Mm-hmm.
What are your guys' thoughts on that? I know it started on page 26.
Yeah, I just want to read this one thing. I have it highlined like multiple times because this really hit hard, and this was right before they went into the defense modes. It says, kick fear to the curb and become fully awake. Knowing exactly how to deal with your enemy, let us live the lives God intended us to live all along. And I think we forget that, and I think that transitions directly into what you're saying about the fight, flight, or freeze mechanisms. Like, we have those mechanisms to protect ourselves, but it doesn't mean we have to live in those all the time. They are there to protect us and keep us safe, but it's not something that we need to live in all the time. And I think, as you know, a lot of us are brought up, you know, we're okay, it's fight or flight, like that's it. Like the freeze thing's like not even an option, although sometimes it does happen.
Right.
Say you fight or flight, the adrenals kick in and there you go. And I really think that I think her explanation is very, very good. Chastity, you started to say something. I wanted to let you go ahead and talk.
Oh, no, I was just saying that she did go into depth with that. And going back to, I guess, your comment in regard to that, I know she said she would go more in depth. That quote that you said, I think right after that, she said she was going to go in more in depth into the fear part of it, or later on in the book. So I'm very interested into hearing that part of it, to try to get, because of the whole don't live your life in fear. But I mean, come on. I mean, let's be realistic. I mean, we all have our fears, and you know what I mean? That is so easier said than done.
Oh, yeah.
And so I'm so interested in to find out where she was coming, or where she's going to go with that. Now, going back to your comment in regards to the fight or flight, I liked the idea that she said, the way she put not being, if you shut yourself off, and gosh, I can't remember exactly because I don't have the book in front of me, I'm sorry, but she was saying you shut yourself off from learning. So it's the different quotes between learning and do you have it in front of you?
I have it in front of me. I'm looking for it.
Because I mean, it was closer to the end in that chapter.
Are you talking about the part where they're talking about the defense versus the discovery, the learning part? Yeah.
Yes.
There's a part here, it says, she explains that each of our brains has two modes of response: the outside world, a defensive system, and then a reward system. And I think that's very interesting. It says, threats put us in a defense mode. Finding delight or potential rewards and opportunities in situation puts us in a discovery mode. In defense mode, our focus is to protect ourselves, which is important, like no doubt about it. But the discovery mode focuses on opening up and learning.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that aspect of it, because it says in there to be able to open yourself up to different ways of people thinking, different religions, different ways it can be brought to you, and things like that. I really enjoyed that, because it made me feel, even though I'm not as religious as you guys, or have the same exact beliefs, but it really still brought me in. It made me understand where I open myself up to your guys' religion and how you feel all the time as well, and you do for me as well. And I think with that, this book kind of shines light on that, of what we're kind of doing right now. Because I mean, you very easily could have been like, oh well, this isn't a book for you, and shunned me. You very easily could, but it could have happened.
Yeah.
With a lot of people, it probably would have happened. And I think that this book also is going to open us up to that. And, it's opening me up to a lot of different things. And I loved that. I loved the discovery one. I really did.
Yeah, I mean, this other part, at the bottom of page 32 for you guys who actually have the book. I just want to read this one little section. It says, "We become limited in making important life choices because we only perceive the threat. We feel weighed down by being on the alert at all times. Living with a heightened sense of awareness drains us and eventually wears us out. We were not made to be one fight away from defeat all the time." Like, I have goosebumps reading that again. I have it highlighted, circled, like I want to cry. Like, I think when we're in our hot mess or our moments of like, okay, I'm just done. I'm like, this isn't worth it anymore. That defense mechanism pulls us back into that moment and goes, wait, it's time to surrender this stuff. And it's time to be like, there is a higher power that is here that created us. And we need to listen to that. And I think being able to be open to that idea, we were not meant to live the way that we do. We weren't meant to live 100 miles an hour and always, filling our minds and constantly being go, 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 go. And I don't know, like, I think that hit me hard. What do you think, Kayla?
No, I definitely think that. I think that we forget to take a step back and not go so quickly and let life like that pass us by and jump into that, into the defense mode. Because I know in the book, in that part, she said that, oh my gosh, now I have to find it, that reacting in a defense mode isn't wrong. So I liked how she told us that, because we're so quick, okay, like we're learning about these, the discovery method versus the defense mode, and we're so quick to think, all right, maybe that's the wrong way to react, but yet it's okay to react that way, but then realize why you're reacting the way that you are.
Right.
I think we all tend to react defensively, instinctively, because we were raised to be on defense. And I think that's, like you said, she gives us both sides of the story. It's not like, okay, this isn't how we're supposed to live. You are living like this, and it is okay sometimes, but like, be conscious of it and bring yourself back.
So
Unhealthy.
So I'm gonna have a question for you guys,
because
you guys can't be the only ones asking questions. talking about that, and I'll answer the question first so you don't feel so bad. But talking about that aspect, as you just said about, we're all raised the way we were raised puts us on defense. So, we'll go into personal information. So, I mean, in this is private, so only the people on here will see everything. So that's a good thing. Just so if anybody going forward listens to these videos, they know that it is a private session.
Absolutely.
So I know that, like, me growing up, I was raped as a child. And so me finding a significant other was hell. I put every person, and don't get me wrong, they were not a saint. The people I was with, but I am also not a saint. So my fight or flight, right? So my defense, I always, second guess people, you know what I mean? I wear my heart on my sleeve, because I feel like, well, let's go back to when I was younger. When I was younger, I probably had more partners than a lot of people, because when I got raped, I felt that, gosh, well, you know what? That's what men want, right? That's how you're going to find love, right? And so I gave away, my virginity was taken from me, but I gave away the deepest part of me all the time. The part that is so deep. I gave that away to anybody that would listen, because I thought that that's how I was going to escape my reality of what I was just going through. And so that was probably the hardest to overcome. And I can't say I'm totally over it, but I can say that I have I've came up with a lot of tools and techniques and things to help me through it. But my flight or fight. So in a relationship, I normally flight. You know what I mean? I don't bother with confrontation. I don't bother with, this or, listening to somebody's other side. I just probably thought the worst of them and I would leave. Or I would give them everything that they did not deserve because I thought that's what they needed too. So, you know, there's so many different things when you think about that. And that's just something I just wanted to come at you guys with the whole, is there anything in your past that you can think that you know, did the whole flight or fight, you know what I mean, that you're still struggling with today, that really triggered with you when she spoke about that?
Do you want to go first, or you want me to?
It doesn't matter.
All right,
I
I'll let
think
you
that
go.
I think that is a tough, definitely very tough. But it's, I mean, for me, it was my mom left when I was at a very young age. It was basically my brother and I raising ourselves for about, I want to say, 2 years. So for me, trusting others and allowing other people in has always been hard. And I've always been that person to give you every reason to leave, right?
Yeah.
Like I've always been that type of person. Like, I don't care. Like, I've had the most important women walk out of my life. So for me, like, what is it to me that you're just going to leave as well, you know? So I always had that sense of abandonment. My
Yeah.
aunt, who it was like a mother figure to me, she passed away when I was about 12 years old. So losing two people that were, you know, who I thought I could trust. I mean, mind you, it wasn't my aunt's fault that, you know, she passed away. It was just God was ready for her. And so I've always struggled with that. I've always struggled with trusting people and them saying, oh, I'm really going to be here for you. But then I've always got this sense of like, you're just going to leave.
Yeah.
So what do I need to keep you? Like, you know what I mean? So that's always been my struggle. It is still my struggle. I can sit here and say every day that I've forgiven my mother, but my relationship is never the same. I just can't talk to her like a normal human being because of her mentality is still at a different rate than mine is. I will say that she definitely made me grow up a lot faster than what I wanted to. So childhood was not something that I got to experience. So I have a lot of brokenness myself. And my first thing has always been to run or let other people run, because why do I care?
Yeah.
And it's something that I struggle with. I still struggle with it. But I call it a life coach that I go see weekly just to keep me balanced, to keep me like heading, you know, mentally, especially heading in the right direction, because I don't want to fall off. So I think that's, for me, abandonment is one of the biggest things. Like, I'm quick to jump, like, or I don't care, like, you know.
Right.
So it's hard. So
Well, thank you for sharing.
yes, absolutely.
Yes, thank you both for sharing. First of all, I want to say thank you both for opening up and just pouring your heart out, because I know it's hard to put ourselves out there. And I feel like I do a terrible job at hiding my feelings. I'm a very expressive person. Kayla knows that. You could look at my face and be like, I know something's wrong, and I'm terrible at it. But it's part of my defense mechanism. I've had a lot of trauma in my life since the age of like a wee child, and I would love to be able to get into every single one of them with you guys at some point, because it's giving me a sense of empowerment to be able to talk about it. Because for a long time I spent time with, I like the idea of a life coach, Kayla. I really like that term.
I don't like calling it everybody calls it like therapist or, you know, my shrink or whatever, but I don't see it
I like
as
that term.
that. I mean, we all need one.
Yeah, I've been seeing
You know.
one since I was 11 years old. You know, I have a lot of history with a lot of abandonment, from my dad to my family to being abused as a child, through my teenage years for actually 5 years. It wasn't just like a one-time thing, and it was really hard. And you know, there's a lot of baggage that comes with being manipulated and controlled and being put in a box. And I call it being put in a box. And so if you ever hear me refer to me, I'm coming out of my box, or you can't put me in a box, it's all of those things, because my entire life since, those special years of growing up where you're developing, you're really hindered, and it still carries through to this day. Like every day is a struggle. Like there's something that comes up. I still to this day can't believe where I am. Like I have no idea how I have gotten to where I am, to be honest with you. And some days I'm just like, by the grace of God, I am here, and literally here with you guys in this community too. Like this is hard for us to talk about, and being able to open up and share those things. But I tend to push people away. I don't necessarily flight, I fight. And I'm like, nope, I'm going to fight, I'm going to fight, I'm going to fight. But I fight in a way of pushing people away. Like, nope, I'm going to do everything I can. If you can make it through that, then you're worthy of staying by my side. Because if I'm not worth fighting for, then you don't belong with me, because I'm literally a warrior. I've been through more things than people can ever think they can imagine. And I know there are other people out there who've suffered far worse than I have, but I don't know how I'm still standing here. I don't know how I actually feel like I have my crap together, which most days I don't. But I feel like every so often those things come up, and I have so many triggers still that I'm still finding that those triggers come up. Like I've had to face some of the triggers, and I've had to acknowledge them. It's taken me years to get there, and I have a lot of different mechanisms to get through. But it's funny how this book club and this community started, because I will admit, like this past week has been really, really, really hard. Like, don't want to get out of bed, don't want to function, don't want to shower, don't want to go to work, don't want to see my kids. Like literally, it's been hard. But knowing that you guys are all here, and knowing that like we're not doing this just for you, we're doing it for ourselves, but you guys are putting in effort and you're part of it with us and building this community. Like we're just kind of facilitating it. We're not leading you, we're just facilitating and kind of helping guide everybody, because this was placed on our hearts, and it's something that Kayla and I talked about, and it's so important. But it's funny how like I feel like I'm falling apart, but this book is holding me together. And it's the craziest thing to be able to say that.
Can, can I ask you, if you know how you said that it's been hard to get out of bed, it's whatever. Do you think it's the book bringing that out of you, or is it just been bad days?
Both. I think, to be honest with you, I think because I have been spending more time by myself and not busying myself, I tend to, I'm not like workaholic, like at work, but when I get stressed, I cook, I clean, I do laundry, I find something to do. Even when my kids are here, they're like, oh, no, I gotta go do this. I gotta go do this. And so I tend to pull myself away from those situations. And I busy my mind or busy myself so that I don't think about it. And I actually got to see my life coach yesterday. And when I talk about the hard stuff, it's not hard. I don't cry. I don't get upset. I don't have panic attacks like I used to. But what I'm noticing is that because I'm digging deeper, like I'm talking about being safe and feeling safe all the time. And there's underlying things from my childhood that I still haven't been able to like fully deal with or understand. I don't know, Chastity, if you've ever heard of, I'm sure Myers-Briggs test,
Mm-hmm.
or
Yeah.
have you ever heard of the Enneagram?
No.
Okay, so the Enneagram is it's similar is to the Myers-Briggs stuff, but it really, it's more about inner work rather than Myers-Briggs is all about extrovert, introvert type stuff, but the Enneagram is more internal about like why we do the things we do and how we think and how we function, like inner. And I've been doing a lot of work with it, and I'm finding things that I'm like, oh, wait, like I've had that my whole life, but now I'm just realizing it. And so, like, I know I can't change you. I can't change Kayla. I can't change, like, nobody in my life. We all evolve and we adapt. But learning to understand those behaviors of why maybe I do the things that I do, I think can help me better communicate with people who I have in my life, or people who, I interact and understand. Like, okay, well, this person's doing this, but that has nothing to do with how they feel or how they love me or if they care about me. Because, like you were saying before, you kind of like, you wear your heart on your sleeve. Like, I probably just dangle mine right in front of your face. Like, mine's far worse than just putting it on my sleeve. I tell
Right.
anybody my story. I'll stand on a stage full of 10,000 people and I'll tell you my story. Like, I am not ashamed of my story by any means. And that has given me power to be able to share, because like, if you don't share it, you may not be able to help that person who maybe needs to hear that. It's other stuff that I struggle with. And that's what I'm trying to understand. And I don't flight, I fight. And it's different than you guys, in different ways, you know?
Right. Yeah, it is very different. I mean, it's not totally different, but I mean, I'm sorry you had to endure that stuff as a child. And I think as we have more of these talks, you know, we'll all open up just a bit more. And I know we all have our struggles and our stories, and I think that it is going to help us to be able to at least get them out. And I know how both of you have seen psychiatrists and, you know, are still seeing. um I you know, when we talk about, you know, we've been through a lot of stuff. I've had way more than I could possibly spit out in one night as well. But one thing I made sure that I never did was use it as an excuse. I refused, and I think that's why us ladies are here today, is
Mm-hmm.
because I refused to be that girl that said, "Oh well, you know, I got beat as a child. Oh, I got raped as a child. I had an abortion as a child from that rape." Like, I've had so many things, and so for me to sit there and say, "Oh, but that's the reason why I do this and do that," it might be the reason, but I'll never make it the excuse.
Right.
You know, I will push through it, and I will find a way to make it right. And I've never seen a psychiatrist or any of that. So I just kind of, you know what, I guess my mechanism is mainly throughout all those things was I would find the good in what happened. Everything bad that happens, there's something good that comes out of it.
Mhm.
It's a
Yeah.
learning lesson. If it's something like that, is something good will come out of it. And I think that's what I do, is I try to hold on to every good thing that happens to me that's bad. And I think that's what kind of helps me get through.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think it was so weird. It was like a total random conversation, like not
Sorry.
this depth
Yeah.
at work. Somebody mentioned something about something in their childhood and whatever, kind of like what you just said. And I was like, oh my goodness. Like, I was just like, yeah, no, it's not an excuse. Like, it happened. It made you who you are right now. And
Correct.
it took me a lot of work to get to where I am, because you know, like you were saying earlier, how you did all those things and you kept doing more to be able to feel loved and wanted, or, you know, like however you want to look at it.
Yep.
Um, you know, that took a lot of work for me to get to that point where I'm just like, no, like I am who I am because of the things I went through. And at one point I was finally able to say, if I had the choice to go back and redo it, I'd allow it all to happen again, because I am
Absolutely.
who I am. And I
Mhm.
would never be who I am right now. And
Absolutely.
And who knows if you would have been as strong as you
Amen.
are.
Amen.
I
Absolutely.
think that our struggles make us stronger, and it shaped us to be who we are and who we're about to be. That this wouldn't be like, I wouldn't be who I am, Chastity. You wouldn't be who you are without going through all of that. You wouldn't have a story to tell if you didn't go through that. And
Absolutely.
what, who knows what lives you would be impacting had you not went through that. Like, it's the same thing with you. It's like, this is why, you know, like, I mean, I just like wonder, like, who knows? It's just shaped us, and I'm so proud that we are still here. We're still fighting strong, and we never let our struggles become an excuse not to keep moving forward.
But on that aspect, we don't let it become an excuse. But I know that I do, is I still punish myself today.
Oh yeah.
So, you know, like I said, when I was raped, I had an abortion from that rape, right? So I punish myself for that abortion every day. I still say, well, you know what? You might die young because you did this, or you know, my biggest thing is, we all know, I mean, I've told you earlier, I'm a hypochondriac. I am. And I think that comes from my anxiety of just as a child. My dad died at 27 years old of a heart aneurysm just out of the blue. But like the thing is just like, I think all those things, the struggles, yes, we don't make them excuse, and we're strong and we push through, but what people don't see, and see, I want to tear up right now, because what people don't see is what's in here
Yeah.
that we don't let out, that we
Right.
cover up with this lovely blanket
Mm-hmm.
and to make ourselves look super strong, because I will never be weak around, you know, people. Like, it's
Right.
just, that's not who I am, and I'll never be. So I think, you know, just being able to be weak every once in a while is not a bad thing.
It's actually
we all,
strong. It's a strong
Yeah.
characteristic because you're being courageous and brave. No,
Yeah.
girl, I know.
Yeah.
So I want to share with you, I know other people are going to see it, but I just can't, like, now that we're talking on this subject and Liza knows what I'm about to say, we've been going back and forth on this idea of t-shirts. I don't know why it came up. And one of my good friends at work, I asked her to play around with the wording and everything that we stand for. And so we are going by live simply, be brave, and unite in sisterhood. Because that is what, you know what I mean? Like, this is what we are. This is what we all stand for. This is all, we're all uniting, coming together as one through this.
Yep.
So I wanted to share that because of where this, you know, our conversations were leading to tonight.
This was a hard chapter. It was
Oh,
a hard
absolutely.
Yeah. So I want to read this last part. It's on page 40. This kind of has something to do with this, where they're talking about the spiritual, you know, resistance and stuff like that. And we didn't really cover that part of the chapter because it's like its own thing. It says, one of the most important things to remember as we face our everyday battles is that standing and resisting doesn't mean being weird. If you run into a spiritual resistance in some area of your life, simply take authority and move on. And I feel like that's what we're talking about in a different aspect.
Yes.
The enemy loves the chaos, the fear-driven prayers, and an over-spiritualized atmosphere because he loves for us to waste our time focusing on him. And I think for me, going to my life coach, I don't feel like it's me overanalyzing it and constantly literally cutting the wounds open. But for me, it's understanding that it wasn't my fault anymore. Like, I don't have to, you know, ask that, or I don't have to go through that process, but understanding why I am how I am because of the things that I have gone through, or the experiences that I have been put in, or the way that I was raised. Understanding, like, that represents, that makes me who I am. So in order to be the best version of myself, I feel like I need to understand what it was like for me as a child, why I do those things, why they're still here, why those behaviors are still here, why those triggers still keep coming up. Like, why am I still holding on to it? And during part of the session yesterday, I had said, oh, all these thoughts in my head. And she's like, well, what thoughts? Like, we need to address those thoughts. And I'm like, then I started talking about something else. And I'm like, I was avoiding the subject. And I was like you said, it's all here. We try to put a blanket over it and say, oh yeah, like, I'm having an okay day, like, everything's fine, but really it's not. And I feel like because I'm spending more time with myself, and because I'm spending more time internally reading this book and journaling and like thinking about things that I haven't in, I don't know, ever or in years, it's helping me to dig deeper and find things that I didn't really understand them before. And now that I'm older and I have more awareness, I'm able to see things differently. And it's not like, oh, I'm cutting the wound open, I gotta stitch back up, cut it open. It's not like that. It's not like I sit there and cry. I don't have a, you know, like, panic attack, but it's like really truly understanding where I'm going. Like, I need to understand those things to be able to move forward and propel myself to the next step. And I think sometimes it's weird, like, people will bring us God, our higher power, whatever you want to say, will he'll put you back on that step because you aren't ready to go to the next step. And you're like, no, 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 I'm ready. Well, fine, I'm going to take you back 5 more steps. Like, you're not ready. And then I think that we struggle with that because, as Kayla and I were talking earlier about, like, we always feel like we want to be farther along than we are. And we're like, well, wait a minute, I'm supposed to do all these things. Well, no, you're not. Like, you're not supposed to be there because you're not ready for what's next.
And they keep saying in the book, she's even said that in God's time, in your time, will that come about? Will that make sense to you? Or, you know what I mean, you might not understand it now, but you'll understand it in your time. I'm sorry, let me ask is, because I'm sorry, I'm a couple chapters ahead.
You're fine.
End of that chapter, does it talk anything about, or the beginning, or the end? I'm trying to figure out where I am about the where she was in the church and people were the blessings, or they were expelling a demons or whatever. I don't remember exactly how she put it, but and then her just saying, why am I not good enough to do that? And them kind of, is that chapter 3?
No, it's in chapter 2. I'm just trying to figure out exactly where it is.
I'm just wondering, because if it's in chapter 3, I don't want to talk about it. That's why I'm just making
sure.
Here she says, I want to remind you that you are the hero in your story.
Okay, so there is that. Okay. So then that whole aspect is there, and I want to touch, what time is it? I want to touch on that subject.
You're fine. Talk about it. Go for it.
That was very interesting to me. So I know, like, when she was saying she was at the church, and as a child she used to travel to different ministries, and when she was 18 she started what is that? I'm sorry, preaching.
Yeah.
Different ministries and things like that. And she would see these seance. What is it called? I'm sorry.
A seance. People. It's not really I wouldn't call it a seance. Not for this particular thing, but
it's like the way they talked about it was like an exorcist.
Yeah.
Like the demon. Whatever. And I don't mean like exorcist on TV. Like, it's just a evil spirit, the taking over her body. Okay. And that's to somebody negative thoughts, wanting to commit suicide. Like, you never know what that is. Okay. It's just a negative spirit or a negative thoughts coming into her or the girl's mind. But she was so upset about, why she felt again in life that, why am I not good enough, or why are they privileged enough to do that? And then she goes into the book to talk about how people will toot their own horn, per se. I'm just my own analogies, but toot their own horn. They want to be the hero. So you're not any better than somebody else. You don't have any less belief or less power in your words than anybody else. It's just if you decide to use them. Like she said, you are your own hero. You're your hero in that book. So when that writer's writing a book and he always wants to be the hero at the end of the day, she referenced, I think it's Star Wars or something.
Yeah, Yoda,
yeah. So I loved that. I really enjoyed that aspect of it because it made me think about just the truth of, so many people wanting to be this hero so when they're the hero, you feel that you're not. You feel, they're only able to come to my house and, do a cleansing in my house because they're certified. What in the heck makes them more certified than you? Do you not have a close relationship with your spiritual gods, whoever they may be? I mean, that you have to believe in yourself to know that you're worthy enough for that. And I think that's what a lot of us lack, is the belief in ourselves and our own being. Like, I can be honest, I'm 36 and I'm still not comfortable in my own skin. I'm not. I don't think I fully believe in myself and, things like that. So that kind of touched on a very sensitive subject as well.
It's very interesting. I don't know what part it's in that book where they talk about how we always take the leaders of the church or somebody, like you said, have a higher authority, like however somebody that you value, you just let them lead. You let them, take the reins because you're like, I'm not qualified enough. Well, if you take a step back, you are. And again, this all touches on you are exactly where you need to be right now. You have everything you need. And we always forget that because we're like, oh, wait a minute, like let's let the spirits, the Satan, like whatever, like let just all those thoughts come in and they overtake what's happening.
I
Taylor,
think that
if you
goes
want
back
say something.
to, yeah, because it was just reminding me back to the sermon on Sunday that pastor was talking about we want to be in control when it's not us that is supposed to be in control. Like it's God or our spiritual guide that is supposed to be in control. And when we let that go, we start seeing positive effects. We start seeing positive changes. And most of us, right, we want to be in control of our life. We want to be in control of our finances. We want to be in control of everything. And when something doesn't go our way, we basically throw a tantrum.
Yep.
And we get mad. We get pissed off. And we're
Our
like,
5-year-old comes out.
exactly, like that terrible twos comes out. And we forget who is really in control here. We forget that our God has the last say. Our God or our spiritual guide has the plan, and we have to fall. Sometimes we are meant to fall. We are meant to go through these things because there's a bigger purpose out there. And that all starts with letting go of control, letting go and letting our stop being prideful and just letting God work as he is supposed to. They always say that our plan, or what is I know I always mess it up, like our plan is not his plan.
Mm-hmm.
So that just really brought me back to that, and touching back to we don't give ourselves enough credit. Like even
No.
as women, like we don't give ourselves enough credit, and we forget to be the hero. And we also forget that while there's a lot of people that depend on us, we need us as well. Like we forget to take care of ourselves.
I
We
think
forget that we're the most, like without us, yes, the rest of the world will function, but we're still needed. And we have to love on ourselves before we can love everybody else.
Yeah, I think I've got 2 babies. They're not really babies, but I still call them babies. I feel like I struggle with the mom guilt, not as much as I used to, but like I used to all the time, like, oh, my kids need me. Like, I need to do this. I need to do this. Like, I can't take time for myself. I can't take a bath. Like, I got to wait till they go to bed. Then I got to do laundry. I do this. And it's like learning to take time for those things, like even when they're here, when they're not here. Like, if I need a moment, I'd be like, okay, girls, I need a moment. I need to go take a bath. Like, you go do your own thing. Like, if we're constantly doing stuff for everybody, whether it's our kids or our spouses or our friends or whoever, people at work, like if we just keep doing and we don't ask, like, hey, do you really need my help, and just do it, like they're never going to learn to do it for themselves, and then they're going to depend on you even more, and then it just creates this cycle. But in the morning for me, it's sometimes really hard with the girls because I'm trying to get everybody out the door, but I'm also trying to be calm and fun, and it's something I'm working on. But it's funny, is like I was rushing out the door this morning. I was so late. I was like, I'm never going to make it to work on time. And I'm like, you know what? I'll get to work whenever I get to work. Maybe there's a reason why I'm running behind. I'm not going to get in a car accident, die, whatever. I don't know. Not trying to be, over crazy. But I dropped the girls off. I was so behind. I was like, okay, whatever. Somehow, as I was driving to work, I'm just like, okay, all right, I'm just going to enjoy the time. I'm going to enjoy the radio. I'm going to calm down. There's no reason for me to be anxious. There's no reason for me to be upset. I'm going to make it to work eventually. No big deal. I made it to work on time somehow. And I was calm. I wasn't anxious. I wasn't like, oh my God, the whole day is ruined. Everything's messed up. I'm late. I'm going to get in trouble. Like, there were so many times I would spend being upset and freaking out for no reason. And I'm like learning slowly, a little at a time, to like let those things happen and just be calm in the moment. Like, I like to stay busy. I want to be in control, but letting go of it, like you said, Kayla, it's allowing things to prosper, and it's a little at a time because I'm not ready to just be like, here you go, have everything.
It's scary.
It is. It really is. It really is scary. Chastity over there shaking your head.
Well, yeah, thinking about that, and yeah. Mine's 16, so I remember those days. And those days, like when they were younger, I was a single mom. So I remember being mom and dad. And I mean, there was no help. So I guess now it's like she's 16, and it's kind of like, oh, yeah, well, mine is no longer like, wait till they get that age. They don't want to hang out with you. They don't know you. They have their own lives. And it's just like, you miss that. Like, I was just thinking how much I would love to have a kid again, you know, or to have a little kid around, like that feeling. But
it's those moments like in the morning, or like when I give them a kiss, you know, because I'm divorced. I do a lot of the work. I'm mom and dad a lot, and I do have help, thankfully. But it's not all the time, and it's not when I want it. Like, hey, I need you to show up. Well, you're not there. Like, oh my God, like, how can I do this? Well, I figure it out because I have to.
You have to.
It's the moments like when I put them to bed at night, or whenever I'm like, all right, I'll never have this moment again. Like, it's never gonna be. So learn to calm the freak down. Like, there is no reason to be upset right now. Like, the world is gonna function. It's not a big deal. But it's taken me a lot of slaps in the face, or for me to like come undone and get upset. I'm like, oh my God, like, what did I just do? Like, and it's taken me those moments to really come back, because I struggle with that stuff. I want to be in control. I want to have everything handled. I don't want to be falling apart. But yet that happens, you know?
And sometimes it takes us falling apart to find where we are and where we need to be. Like I said, with my car accident I had in November, I stop and get my bad habit is I drink soda a lot too. And so I stop every morning and I have to get a fountain drink soda. It's just what I do, right? So that morning though, I literally was like, no, I don't want to do that. I brought my water from home. I said, I'm going to drink water today. And see, and those are the questions when I start to question stuff, because I literally did not stop for that drink. I always stop for that drink. And that's the day I got in my car accident in November. And now I'm not allowed to go back to work, and just craziness. So, but I was so upset when it happened. I was like, that's not fair. Like, I don't know. But I was so upset of like, you know, why did this happen to me? Why did I get in this car accident? I was trying to do something good in my mind and not drink soda and drink water. But then I kept reminding myself that, listen, you have been through hell and you're pretty damn strong. And maybe it would have been a child and a baby in that accident instead. You know, maybe it was somebody else that I saved. You know, he spared them because he knows I can handle this. Or maybe his bigger picture, or, you know, higher power. And I say he because, like I said, I'm not against it. I'm just, you know, yeah. So, because I do talk to God all the time. So my thing is maybe he wanted me, because now I'm going to be going back to school. You know what I mean? I'm going to school and I'm going to go ahead and follow what I want to do, even though it'll never make as much money as I was making before. And it might eventually one day, but it's my dream. It's what I always wanted to do. It's what makes me happy. But now I'm getting the chance to do that. Then again, maybe that was it. You know what I mean? So you got to think, you can't, everything bad, you can't question. I question it. But like for instance, now I'm thinking, oh, so something good's going to happen to me. I'm going to get to go to school. So I'm going to be punished for something else. So maybe like with this whole cold, maybe I have lung cancer. I'm going to die because I smoke. You know what I mean? Like, so like I do this whole punishment thing. And I think once I get rewarded, I have to be punished. And I think that's just from my past. I think that's from the childhood.
Mm-hmm. Well, like Kayla and I have been, you know, coming up with all these grandiose ideas and talking about it, and like, all right, at the first of the year, we're going to do this, this, and this. And then 2 weeks in, I get bit by and attacked by 2 dogs, completely random.
Wow.
Running down my road, I'm exercising and doing what I'm supposed to. I'm showing up for the world, doing all the great things. And I'm like, really? Are you kidding? Like, I was on the phone with my boyfriend and there was a dog who comes out. And I'm like running on a totally different road, never go down. I'm like, hey, there's a dog. He's barking at me. Okay. I said, one of these days I'm going to get bit by one of these dogs and whatever. 5 minutes later, I turn down the road, go down the other side of the road. Guess what? 2 dogs come out of nowhere and attack me. And I'm like, are you kidding me? And I immediately was like, oh, really? Like, how am I going to get through this? Like, I knew what was going to happen. Eventually, I knew I had to go get the rabies vaccination because one of them didn't have their vaccines by shy of maybe 2 weeks. Like, what? I don't even understand. But
So you get mad. Yeah.
I mean, I was upset, but like I handle big things better than small things. I don't know why. But I met one of the nurses at the hospital who was giving me the shots every week. I became friends with her. She's gonna have a baby in a couple of months. She lives down the road from me now. And it's kind of weird, like I don't know how things plan out. I don't know why things happen. And for so long, I was always questioning. And like me and Kayla are always like, why is this happening? Like, why is this happening? I'm like, I don't know. We're not supposed to know. But being okay with we're not supposed to know is the hardest part for me.
Yeah.
It is. Kayla, you're like,
no, I'm just listening. I'm like, because I can relate so much, like, to both, to everything that's going on. Like, I can relate. I'm always questioning the why behind the action. And it's one of those things, like, as hard as it is not to question it, we still do. But it's steps like taking, looking at the positives rather than the negatives. And I know one of them for me recently has been my career. Being a medical assistant, working in one of, like, I want to say the biggest healthcare systems here in the county. I'm finding that my purpose no longer is there, or I've lost that purpose. So it's hard when you've gone to school for something that you so desperately love, but you're finding that your career is being steered in a different direction. So I think that's been lately, like, I'm questioning that, like, big time.
Then why did you go to school?
Right. Like, don't get me wrong, like, I love doing what I do, but when upper management or like the system takes that away from you, like, your purpose isn't you know what I mean? It's not being followed with their beliefs and what the route that they're headed to. It's hard. So it's just like, it's not aligning. And I'm like, why? Like, why is this, like, happening, And I mean, it's just one thing that I'm struggling with, but it goes back to finding the positive in it all. So as much as we want to be negative about it, I can't, because only God knows what's in store next.
Exactly.
So I just exactly go ahead, Chastity.
No, I said that's exactly it. Just like I said, with the whole accident, before I got in the accident, I had just been at a new job for 3 months, and I changed positions. I was so excited. I was like, oh my gosh, this is a new adventure. This is it for me. I'm so excited. I'm so happy. And they loved me. Everything was going great. Then I get in the car accident and I can't go back to work. And now I don't have that job. And it was like, why? Why did you put me there for this to happen?
Right.
But I guess, and and just like you girls, it's the hardest thing for me to understand is the whys. And I'm hoping, with this book, she does talk a lot about that kind of stuff.
I'm actually ready for chapter 3. I know you're into chapter 3, but
I'm just starting really to get on there.
even looking at the next chapter, I'm like, I'm ready to dig in, and I've been ready to dig in since I finished chapter 2. I even got the audio version so I can listen to it. And
Yeah. It's nice to listen to it.
So I just want to read this last line. It's not really it's on page 37 to kind of summarize what we've been talking about and just kind of lead into next week's. I'm just going to read part of it. Well, I guess I'll read the whole thing. It just says, yes, there are tough realities we will have to face, but irreplaceable sense of fulfillment and contentment accompanies stepping into our daily spiritual battles with purpose and confidence. And I want to really focus on that part of stepping in to the confidence and just knowing that we are enough right now, right where we are, no matter what battle we're fighting, no matter if we're on a valley or in a valley or on a mountain. We have those ups and downs, and that's part of life. And some people go like, okay, well, I'm on a mountain. Well, what's next? Where's the next valley? And I think, Chastity, you kind of touched on that a little bit. Like, okay, well, what's next? Like, how is this going to affect me tomorrow? Like, where's the next bad thing? And I mean, I live like that sometimes too. But just being prepared and not unexpectedly finding something, but like really truly having more confidence in ourselves and really truly believing like, hey, I am good enough right now in this moment. Like, I have everything I need to be where I'm at, and tomorrow I'll be better, even if it's literally this much. That I think is so, so important. And, that's why we're here. That's why we're pouring our souls out to everybody and talking about the hard things, because people don't want to talk about the hard stuff at all. Kaylee, do you want to add anything?
No, I don't think so. I think that, progress is so important. And like you said, Liza, as long as we're making a little bit of progress, that's all that matters. And as long as we're moving in the right direction and not taking steps backwards, like becoming better than what we were yesterday.
Yeah.
Even if it's like I said, the smallest things, creating new habits, and finding those little imperfections that we don't necessarily like, that we know that we can fix about ourselves. I think that's always one step closer to us loving ourselves and finding ourselves. So
yeah, John Maxwell always talks about yesterday is already written, but it's not going to win you tomorrow. Like, your home run that you hit today isn't going to win tomorrow's game. And taking one day at a time and saying, okay, today I'm going to be better than I was yesterday because I can, and I will. And it's okay. We fall off the wagon. It happens, but getting back up is half the battle. You're not a failure if you stand back up. If you're standing on top of a mountain of failures, that's success. Like, if you're letting them be beneath you, that means you're being successful. You're learning and you're growing. And I think that is so huge. Chastity, did you want to add anything? No.
I am an emotional wreck today, so no.
No, you're totally fine, girl. Okay, well, with that, we will conclude week 1, chapter 1 and 2. I encourage.
Somebody jumped on in a moment. Did they jump back off?
They were on for a while and then they hopped back off. I don't know who it was exactly. Couldn't see the name. It just said,
right. Okay, I didn't know, and I just wanted to make sure that if they were on here, we were making.
Yeah, no, they had gotten off a little while ago. If you haven't read chapter 1 and 2 and you're happy to see this is the Stronger Than the Struggle. Go back and reread the chapters. I reread them again today, and it was very powerful for me to reread some of this stuff. So
just a reminder, when we're going through this, we not at one point, I know with you and everybody, we don't give away the book, or give away the chapter. We give great quotes in the chapter, and we talk about subjects within those chapters. But if you are re-watching this, realize that there's so much more that's going to pull you in from those chapters. Highlights from 3 of us. You know what I mean? So there's way more out there.
Absolutely.
And if you guys are watching this, and as a recap, if you have questions or you want to talk more about this, like, you can reach out to any of us. I know Chastity's probably got an open door policy over there in her messenger too. Like, we're all here. Like, if you can if you've related to any parts of any one of our stories, or all three of us, feel free to start a group chat with all of us. Like, we want to connect with you. We want to help you. We're doing this book with you guys, but we're going through our own hot mess and struggles too. So
I mean, we're doing this for emotion or for selfish reasons as well.
we can just, all three of us can become y'all life coaches.
Right, there you go.
Official titles. But, all right, y'all have a great night.
All right, you too.
Bye.
Bye, ladies.